48-hour Corvette powered by rain filter, built by the Ride Tech folks, and headed to Barrett-Jackson. And learn more about this car once it hits the Barrett-Jackson auction. And then also Will Beatty and Center Force with their awesome Center Force Express van. That's a diesel. Come down to the end of the alley here, heading towards Joe Brown. And you see the Rebuilding Generations Jeep, Dodge Charger, and I'm told this is a 1,000 horsepower Dodge Challenger. Supposed to run the event. We'll see how the 1,000 horsepower does for him. Chad Reynolds with the Showtime, the Franklin Road Apparel sponsor entry into the Automotive Streetcar Invitational. He just got done driving this car all over the country. His wife Daphne, great friend of everybody, passed away unfortunately from cancer. And Chad went out and did hashtag Team Wicked Chick. Did an impressive drive around the country, drag raced the crap out of that car. He's got nitrous in the back, plans to be the fastest straightaway car at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm not sure that's a good idea in that car. We'll see. Jeremiah Stotler and his Mustang. That is the Air Raid sponsor entry. And Dave Thomas, his wife Karen, the official chiropractor of the series, and sponsored by Fire Aid, another sponsor of the series. John Woods, Spectre Performance, Spirit of the Event invitee. He broke this car out of paint jail before it was even painted to come run the event. Ended up picking up an invite. He's picked up invites in the past, I think. He had a Trans Am, second gen Trans Am, white with a blue stripe that he ran. I don't think he qualified for the OUSCI. Jim Stalin out of Illinois in his C5 Corvette. Mark Golovin in what everybody knows as the Black Betty Camaro. This was the project car for Chevy High Performance when Nick Licata owned it. Went to esteemed photographer Robert McGaffin. There's Mark. And now Mark owns it and blows it up on a regular basis. Danny King with his 911 Porsche. Danny will be back out next season in a very wicked first-gen Camaro. Vernon Jolly, I think he's an attorney out of Utah, made it in on points. He was on the bubble. The bubble worked out for him. He's in. Happy to be here. Mike Gallagher. We've seen Mike before. He used to run a CTSV in this series. Changed over to the Ford Focus RS. That's a 2016, highly modified, lightened. John Groh and his 1,000 horsepower Camaro up next. He's out of Utah. I think that's a JDP Motorsports car. Jeff Hahn. He might be a Dakota guy in the GTC class in his Honda Civic. And then, gonna kick my butt. I can't remember this car.
So where do we want to go in?
Eric, it'll come back to me later. I apologize to the C7 owner, Eric Fleming. That's who it was. Jonathan Blevins, his Ford Mustang, one of the top Mustangs in the Franklin Road Apparel GT class. And then Jordan Priestley at JDP Motorsports, running that Anderson Composites hood on his 2017 Corvette. Parked next to Chad Langley's 68 Camaro. Chad out of California. And then Anthony Cuthbert drove this car from Michigan. These are street-driven cars. Anthony Cuthbert in the GTC class for the compact cars made it in on points. Brian Hobaugh with the world's most famous second-gen Camaro. Brian, also the owner of a beautiful C2 Corvette known as Letty's Corvette, appeared in Fast and Furious 8. Dom Tucci Hot Rods out of New York. This car was in the Ford booth last year. Made it in as the Falcon Tires entry into the show this year. Casey Woodside's 2001 Corvette. It's your Power Stop Brakes entry into the event. Casey, a multi-time OUSCI competitor. Cliff Elliott, Gulf Coast, Texas, all the way up. The Ace 1 Ford Mustang 2016 GT. Brand new out of the box engine swap on that car. Anderson Composites goodies all over the place. Sal Solorzano's second gen Camaro. Then Robert Dupree with a car that looks a lot like Rich Wilhoff's car before the change and then after the change, but those two guys need to get together and discuss what they're going to do with their yellow Corvettes, because they showed up at an event and looked almost identical after looking almost identical for most of the time they ran the series. Kevin Schultz, I believe, is out of Utah with his Honda S2000 Club Racer. And then Linda Jacobs out of, I don't know, Elburn, Illinois. Spectre Performance sponsor entry with her 66 Chevelle. That car has been in the OUSCI before. Take a walk a little further up the alley, and we'll head over to the regular season class champions. 7 events make up the qualifying season for Optima's search for the ultimate street car. And we'll start by looking at Austin Barnes' Dodge Viper. That's 700 horsepower, naturally aspirated. Austin Barnes, if you know him from the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, very accomplished driver. He won the Recaro GTS class in this car. Very tight points battle there. Came down to the wire. Jake Roselle in the mix for that, Jeremy Swenson and others. In the new for 2017 GTC Compact class, Scott Budisilich out of Alabama with his Honda S2000 took home the regular season championship. And then this is your back-to-back Grand National points champion, Rich Wilhoff's 2006 Corvette. Also the Holly EFI GTL class champion in back-to-back years. And then your 3-time Franklin Road Apparel GT class champion. He's at the back of the car. That's Brian Johnson. 2013 Chevrolet Camaro. That absolutely infuriates people who run in the series, because they look at it from a distance and they say, black Camaro. But it's not just a black Camaro, is it?
It's not just a black
Far
Camaro.
from it. One of the most heavily modified and well-driven Camaros in this series, as evidenced by Brian's 3 regular season championships in a row. Parked next to Brian's car, our GTV class champion. You say, what's GTV? That's cars built before 1990 that weigh at least 3,200 pounds. This is John Lazorak's 1988 Chrysler Conquest. This car previously ran the GTL class because he was under 3,200 pounds. He moved up in weight. He's over 3,200. The car is old enough. It ran in the GTV class and won. After only planning on running one event, he ran a second. Next thing you know, he was in the points chase, put it on the Falcon trailer, came to Road America, clinched the regular season championship in the GTV class. And then Matt Scott's Hyundai Ioniq, 2017 GTE electric car class champion in Optima's search for the ultimate street car. The first champion in the electric car class, the first competitor in the electric car class. Happy to have him out here. Hope to see more electric cars in the series in the future. And that's not a hybrid. That's an all-electric car. And it's quite an accomplishment, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of electric cars on the market right now. Not a lot can get through a weekend in this series. Jake Roselle last year ran a 69 Camaro, won the GTV class, moved to the GTS class in 2017, and this clone of Danny Pop's C5 Corvette 2003. That car almost won the GTS class championship. Parked next to that, a WiseTech Optima battery sponsor entry. These guys all-wheel drive, twin turbo, really fast cars, should be very competitive. And then Mike Dusel, the regular contender for the OUSCI title. Car changes appearance every time it shows up. SEMA, inside and out. One of the most radical first-gen Camaros you've ever seen anywhere. When we have judges for design engineering, they come in and they say, I've seen everything that can possibly be done to a first-gen Camaro. And then they see Mike's Camaro, and they see his interior and his dashboard, which is inspired by and uses gauges from World War II era fighter airplanes that actually function. I say, okay, we've seen something new in a first-gen Camaro. I've never seen one that looks quite like this one before. Mike Dusel of Dusel Designs out of Texas. One of the top contenders this year, as always, in the Optima Ultimate Street Car Invitational. Head over to the back row. Start off with... That's weird. See, even Danny thinks it's his car.
No, I'm just making sure it's locked. That's
okay.
all.
Andy Fritz from Anderson Composites. Ford Fiesta. Rode down the elevator with him this morning. He's a GTC compact class competitor. Parked next to that is Kevin Tully's Plymouth Valiant Signet GT3 class competitor, multi-time OUSCI competitor. Ray Davis, whose name I had a hard time remembering yesterday, in his C5 Corvette. Chad Langley, and as we recalled yesterday, if you were watching on the Facebook live feed, this car was previously owned and campaigned by Robert Weathers. He sold it to Chad Langley. Chad Langley now owns it. These doors open Lamborghini style. Incredible wrap on that car. Chad Langley, an outstanding driver, one of the top contenders in the GT Franklin Road Apparel GT class. Carrie Wilhoff with her Race Chick Apparel Corvette. Her husband Rich, the GTL class champion. She runs in the GTS class. And then this LS1 swapped RX-7 owned by Kong Chang. Kong out of, I think, Oklahoma. Almost missed an event because he was loading up one of his trailers with relief supplies to take down to Houston after the hurricanes. And he's out here again. Phenomenal car, custom paint, custom interior. There's nothing on that car that hasn't been touched. Kurt Robinson up next in his 5th gen Camaro. NMCA West competitor, also runs in Optimus Search for the Ultimate Streetcar Series. And then Brandon Randvik, his 2006 Mitsubishi Evo. Ken Thwaites may have the nicest in the world. This would be a very close second, although some people could debate which one's 1 and which one's 2. Unbelievable white paint with blue pearl laid out in it. See a lot of Evos at SEMA. None can hold a candle to either one of those two in terms of appearance and performance. Brett Volkel in his Ride Tech 48-hour Camaro, 67 Camaro out of Indiana. He'll be, I think he's competed in just about all the OUSCIs, maybe not all of them, but this is our 10th, and he's maybe been in 8 or 9. Michael Revere in his C6 Corvette. Ed Michelath in his 69 Camaro. Ken Edwards, morning.
How you doing?
Good, out of New York. Second go around for Ken. No food poisoning yet this week, right?
No, I'm being very careful what I eat.
Okay, and the car's running all right?
Car is good. I'm shining right now.
Tell me about how you ran out of fuel when you went up in the mountains.
I was starting out great. 5th gear was fine up until 3,000 feet, and then we downshifted to 4th gear, not realizing how much of an impact I was going to be in for.
Okay.
By the time we got up to 7,500 feet, I was in 2nd gear and smoking like a diesel.
Oh no.
At 8,000 feet, it stopped running, and I did a coasting backwards down the mountain U-turn, if you could imagine that. I'm afraid of heights. Next to the railing, it's not a comfortable feeling.
So when you coasted back down to a lower altitude, it ran fine?
I coasted back down, I popped it into a gear, and it started running again, and the lower I got, the better I was feeling.
So for people who think this series is all late model stuff and fuel injected, what kind of carburetor do you have?
I have a 700 Holly, and I'm going to continue having a 700 Holly. I'm trying to maintain the old school vintage. I have a distributor. Most kids don't even know what that is.
Well, we appreciate it, and we're glad to have you out here.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is awesome.
Thank you. Enjoy the week. Next, Ken Edwards' car. Doug Osborne out of Ohio with his Lingenfelter-powered C6 Corvette. Dustin Nixon, GTV Vintage Class qualifier with his 2nd gen Camaro. And I think this is Michael Johnson's 63 Ford Falcon, another Falcon Spirit of the Event winner from earlier this year. Bo Cowling with his Dodge Viper, the 2nd Viper we have running this year. And out of Canada, Brock Makins. 1st gen Camaro, 68 Camaro. I think he might have gotten a Spectre Spirit of the Event invitation as well. Glenn Landrum's C6 Corvette blew up after it qualified earlier this year. Glenn went out, ran in his wife's Honda S2000. His wife's got a really nice Honda S2000 apparently. Qualified both cars, felt this one would be more competitive for the overall win, so he brought this one because you can only bring one. Steve Rivette, Motor State Challenge sponsor entry in his 68 Camaro. And Randy Johnson in one of the most heavily modified C5 Corvettes you'll ever see. The whole front end of that car is unlike any other C5 on the planet. He runs D&Z Customs out of Kewaskum, Wisconsin. Lingenfelter LS7 under the hood. You probably saw this car a couple of years ago at SEMA in the Automotive Gage's booth inside Central Hall. Very well built car. And then Justin Hendrickson's C5 Corvette, I'm sorry, C5 5th Gen Camaro. Justin tore this car apart at Road America. After he blew it up, he was doing a charity ride and drive at Road America the day before our event there. Blew up the car. Ken Thwaites came up with his 5th Gen Camaro from Tennessee. Had some issues. Ken set a record actually in the series for braking. He broke before he even got to the event. On the way to the event, his car was on the trailer and the shocks blew out. The only other car within 1,000 miles that had shocks happened to be the same shocks actually, Justin Hendrickson's, which were just down the road. He went down, picked up his trailer, brought the car up. They pulled the shocks off of this car, put them on Ken's car so he could run for the weekend. Then Ken's alternator went south. And we pulled the alternator off this car. So Justin Hendrickson ends up with the, even though he didn't actually get to run at the event at Road America, ended up with the Spectre Performance Spirit of the Event invitation. Pike's Performance Tunes, another Spectre Performance Spirit of the Event invitee, works heavily with HP tuners, and Andrew helped tune several cars at various events when he could have been working on his own, always ready to help his fellow competitors, and he ended up with a Spectre Performance Spirit of the Event invitation. Thomas Litton, he's got an engine swap out of a Honda S2000 in his Mazda Miata. Told us yesterday about 245 horsepower on this car, obviously ultra lightweight GTC class competitor. Third different car that he ran this year in the series. I think he ran his wife's Camaro, he ran a Corvette, but this was the one he got the invitation in. Gary Walsh, his C5 Corvette. All the way from Virginia Beach. This car drove most of the way here because his trailer broke, or his truck broke or something. This Mills Robinson, his 67 Camaro, and that's the nicest Mills Robinson's Camaro's ever looked. He built that whole car himself in his one-car garage. Any European cars? Yes. He missed a Wisec twin-turbo Mercedes just a little bit earlier, further down the alley. We'll catch that at the end because we're headed back down that way right now. This kind of counts as a European car. Luc Vignier's Dodge Challenger, obviously a Fiat company. And then Andy Hollis, multi-time SCCA national champion. There he is in the back talking to Eric Vandermeer. K-Swap Miata, this guy basically wrote the book on the K-Swap Miata. Do you own that website, K-Swap Miata?
I do not.
But they...
Calzada owns, it's called kmiata.com.
kmiata.com?
Yep, kmiata.com. In fact, David should be showing up here to meet at the car momentarily.
Okay.
So we'll see soon. But yeah, onelapmiata.com though is this car's Facebook page. So if anybody wants to see all the build specs and stuff on the car, go to onelapmiata.com. It'll take you to a Facebook page which has a whole bunch of information, including what these beautiful flares look like underneath the paint.
Oh, wow.
How we did them.
What series tires are you running on this?
So these are 285s on a 10.5-inch wheel, and it's an 18x10. There's not another Miata in the world that has this big a street tire on it. Not only did we flare the outside, but we also tubbed the inner fenders. And if you look under the hood, you can't even see the seams where we did it. Basically, you see all this bulging out here. We sliced through all of the metal, added in additional metal, pushed it all in so that these great big huge tires can actually turn within there and not rub on anything. And that was a very unique item on this particular car. The flare kit, this is something that the SCCA production class racers developed a long time ago. But we took what was effectively a race car quality part and made it more of a show quality part. Body shop I was working with called Apex Auto Works in Houston did the flaring work on the outside as well as that inner tubbing there.
Fantastic. We'll have a great week. We'll see you this weekend.
See you guys. Andy.
Eric Vandermeer, if he's going to go down by his car, we'll talk to him in a little bit after he cruises through the road.
Wait for you to catch up.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. Scott Spiewik's C5 Corvette out of Arizona running the series and running the OUSCI this weekend. This car looks familiar to a lot of people because it looks just like Mary Posey's Camaro. It's not. It's the 73 Camaro owned by Nick Relampagos out of California. Logan Palmer, I think this is another one of those California cars. Rich Wilhoff has a lot to do with how this car gets set up, I think. Top contender in the Holley EFI GTL class. Brandon Williams with, I think it's 335s all the way around he's got on that car maybe. Nissan GTR. He was one of the top contenders in the Recaro GTS class this season. Parked next to him, Greg Thurman's, I think it's a 65 Corvette. This was in the Spectre Performance booth in Central Hall last year at SEMA. And then next to that car, Rick Hoback out of Ohio. His Mazda RX-7. This was naturally aspirated when he qualified. He doesn't care about being the top GTL car at OUSCI, so he put a turbo on it. He just wants his best overall finish. The public cannot attend SEMA. SEMA is allegedly an industry-only show, only open to folks in the industry, although apparently the industry is quite large because there's a lot of people here. And I'd stand in line for the bag check twice as long if they check IDs with badges. Ferris Khartoumi up next in his C6 Corvette. This car always looks different. Yesterday I had a hard time remembering whose car this was because he's got a new white wrap on it. But he is a top contender in the Holley EFI GTL class, and some think perhaps top contender overall for the OUSCI title. Lynn Draper owns the best slushy machine in the world. He's out of Idaho. Brought the slushy machine down, brings it to every event he runs in this Dodge Viper. The paint scheme modeled after his son's skateboard, so that's why you see the red with the green. Efrain Diaz, California, 69 Chevrolet Camaro, LS7 under the hood. And Mike Meyer with his 2017 Ford Mustang blew the engine up at Road America. Had to get this car here contractually, so he got a new engine in the car. It's here, ready to run. Jeremy Swenson, I think Jeremy's out of Minnesota, and he was one of the guys that came down to the wire, one of the top cars in the Recaro GTS class, and that's for all-wheel drive cars over 3,200 pounds, or two-seat coupes like your late model Corvettes, Dodge Vipers, and you'll see your Mazda RX-7s in that class as well, and Jeremy Swenson, one of the top competitors. And then we happen to have a driver here with us, Eric Vandermeer, who's going to tell us about his Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, I call it minimal upgrades, which is kind of tongue-in-cheek at this point, but it's a 07 MX-5 Miata. I've done a motor swap on it. It's got a 2.5 liter Mazda motor in it instead of the 2 liter. So I picked up a bunch of horsepower and a lot of torque.
About how much now?
It was 140 horsepower at the wheel. Now it's 176, which is not bad, but the torque went from 130 to 185.
Okay.
So it pulls real strong out of corners, great for autocross, great for a road course. Not nearly as extreme as the K-swap down the road.
Well, fantastic. Thanks for coming out. We look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Thank you.
Larry Wu's 68 Camaro out of Ohio. Maybe if Mike Dussold isn't your cup of tea with a first-gen Camaro, this one might be. He has ripped this car apart and rebuilt it so many times he's probably lost track. Those aren't really Uniroyal Tiger Paw 70s on his car. I can't remember what tire he runs. He was running BFG. I think he still is. But you'll notice the single diamond stitching, custom stitching on his carbon fiber seats, matching on the door panels. I don't know, he's got like alligator underbelly or something for his dashboard. A couple of race packs monitoring all the essentials on this car. We had somebody asking about a Euro car. I know we've got this Wistek Mercedes C63S for sure out of Southern California. I can't remember if there's other ones in this year or not. It's hard getting those guys to come out. Bit of humble pie to run in this series and have a 67 Camaro like Mike Dussold's absolutely spank you. Not saying that it would spank this Wistek car, but Mike Dussold spanks just about everybody in his 67 Camaro. 1,000 horsepower, twin turbo under the hood. Totally streetable. So that's Optima Alley, the 2017 SEMA Show in Las Vegas. You can watch Optimus search the ultimate street car every weekend on MAV TV, channel 214 on your DirecTV lineup. New episode this Friday. It was our qualifying event at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Watch Ken Thwaites blow up after his second speed stop run. A record for braking that he will break later in the season before he even gets to Road America. You can also find out more about this series at www.driveoptima.com. Learn how you can be a part of it with your street car. No professional drivers. Everybody has 200 treadwear tires or higher. And we run events all over the country. This year we ran at New Jersey Motorsports Park,